Root of Nightmares is out and you're here to learn how to complete it, so let's skip the pleasantries and just get into the raid. The first encounter. When you get to the entrance, the first thing you'll notice is a light orb. This orb, when shot while you're in the aura, will give you a buff called Field of Light. This buff will last 15 seconds and is necessary to progress. When you shoot the orb and get the buff, a line will be drawn towards one of the plates that you will see in front of you. If you have the buff and are standing on top of that plate, you'll be able to shoot this black orb and create a new light orb, which we will call seeds for the sake of brevity. Every time you grow a seed, you will lose the Field of Light buff and you will have to reacquire it. The next orb location will not appear if you do not rebuff at the white orb with the aura. So make sure after growing every seed, you rebuff with the Field of Light. Once you grow all seeds in one section, you'll be able to move on with the encounter. However, there will be two things stopping you: Scions and the wipe timer Sweeping Terror. Sweeping Terror is a timer that will tick down, and once it hits 0, you will die. To prevent this, there will be Scions that will spawn every so often that when killed will spawn a Tormentor. Killing this Tormentor will reset your Sweeping Terror timer. So the flow for this encounter is to have 1 or 2 people growing seeds with buffs, while the rest of everyone clears adds, Scions, and kills Tormentors. Your number one priority is to clear all of the adds, Scions, and Tormentors as fast as possible, so there will be less pressure on your runners. I would recommend strong ad clear weapons like Thunderlord / any machine gun you have, swords, volatile rounds, the whole works, basically anything you know will kill a lot of things fast. There are also anti-barrier champions, so make sure you're prepared for that. Other than all of that, it's a very easy encounter, and this mechanic will be very prevalent throughout the entire raid. I mean, the entire raid, so take your time to get familiar with it. With all that said and done, let's head on to the second encounter. Now, you're gonna notice something. It's basically the same as the first encounter, but double and do it 3 times. Yeah. Both sides will have a seed, light and dark. These sides are separated by a massive chasm. On the edges of the chasm, there will be these slabs, and they will have a floating shard. The floating shards, when shot, will launch you with the slab to the other side of the chasm. Like I said, this encounter is the first encounter, but doubled. The only difference is that for every seed you grow, you will have to swap to the other side to grow the next one. The dark seed works the same as the light seed, it's just a different color. This encounter also has a wipe timer as well, however, there's no way to extend it unless you complete the floor you are on. You will be swapping sides very often, so Warlocks well skating across or just running Eager Edge in general would be very nice, as it would save you plenty of time. The additional mechanic added for this encounter would be the Centurions with special shields that can only be damaged with the corresponding light or dark buff. These Centurions will disable the plates for the opposite side if they are not cleared out, so killing them as soon as possible is the most important thing here. Essentially the same thing as first for each side, one person running growing the seeds and the other 2 are clearing adds and Centurions as fast as they possibly can. Remember, if you are standing in the aura of the seed, you will receive the buff regardless of who shoots it. So every time your runner comes back for buff, everyone should be buffing with them. If you're a runner and your team is focused on adds, call out to them, let them know, because not being able to kill the Centurions will wipe you more than anything, so keeping buffs topped up is the highest priority. After growing all the seeds with both light and dark, a Centurion boss will spawn at the very end of your floor with a corresponding shield for both sides. Before you start killing the boss, make sure everyone gets the buff, as if you lose the buff before the Centurion is killed, you will get soft locked. This is definitely a bug, and it will definitely cause a wipe. This bug affected my team many times on our day 1 race. Once the Centurion is killed, the switch for the launcher on the far side of the platform will appear and it will launch you to the next floor. Be very careful when doing this, as it will sometimes launch you incorrectly and it will just kill you for no reason, because architects are funny like that. As for guns you should bring, machine guns are in my opinion the most important weapon here, as they have lots of ammo, recently had their ad clear potential buffed with Lightfall, and can be used at pretty decent ranges. For those running, Eager Edge is basically a must-have, as the timer is very strict if you're not on it immediately. Once you've completed floor 3, jump into the flower and head inside, and there will be this door blocking your way. To open the door, all you need to do is connect both light and dark seeds in the middle of the room. I would recommend only having one person shoot the orbs, as if another person comes in and shoots the orbs in the incorrect order, it will reset the sequence. It's less of a problem because it's not like you wipe or anything, it's just annoying. The jumping puzzle. Moving past the sus-shaped door, you will enter the jumping puzzle. If you've played the Eater of Worlds raid lair back in the early days of D2, this will be pretty familiar to a degree. You will periodically have a wave of dark energy pulse from outside and it will kill you once it reaches you. To prevent this, you need a buff called Darkness's Refuge. To get this buff, you need to acquire the Field of Light buff from the Light Seed. You'll see it the moment you walk in, and then you have to shoot the Darkness Seed while having the Field of Light buff. If you don't have Field of Light, you will not get the Refuge. This will give you Darkness Refuge for 15 seconds. It's a bit of a hot potato of balancing your buff timers and making progress. Or you can just well skate to the end, because why not? All players have to make it to the end to open the door, just like Valve the Disciple, so if you just aren't feeling it, you could just leave and join back. That's what I did. I didn't want to do that. Now that we're past the jumping puzzle, we're on to the third encounter and our first boss. And it's going to look very intimidating to begin with, but it's really simple. It's just presented in a really weird way. It is also the only encounter that does not use the seed mechanics, so whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you decide. Once you enter, you will see the boss and 12 planets split into 6 on 2 sides, light on the left and dark on the right. When you begin the encounter, you will just have basic ad clear. Upon clearing ads, Centurions will spawn on both left and right where the boss spawns initially. Once those are dead, it will spawn 4 Colossuses. Colossi? I don't know. Once you kill a Colossus, you will receive a buff called Planetary Insight. This will reveal the planets to be either light or dark, as well as have white orbs below them. The goal of this encounter is to line up the planets on their respective side. Dark planets on the dark side, right, and light planets on the light side, left. To identify what planets are light and dark, 4 people must acquire the buff of each Colossus and call out what planets on their platform are light and dark. The way my team labeled the planets are as follows. From spawn, we numbered them 1 to 6 on both left and right. Once we identified what planets were out of position, we will be swapping the position of the planet with the opposite side. This is where the white orbs below the planets come in. To swap a planet, you and a teammate must interact with the white orb below the planet you want to switch and interact with the white orb below the planet that you want to swap with on the opposite side. For example, we had the callouts L3, L6, and R2, R6. So to swap the planets, I would activate the orb on L3 and then activate the orb on R2 to finish my swap sequence. Then my teammate on the opposite side would then activate R2 and then L3. Once both have been activated properly, the planets will swap sides and be in alignment. Keep in mind, you do have a limited time to complete the switch once a Colossus has been killed, so be quick to activate the correct planets. It's not that hard. They give you a really generous amount of time, but if you're messing around or you die or something, it can make it a bit more difficult. Once all planets are in alignment, you will receive text in the bottom left indicating you have done it correctly. Once that happens, you will have to do one more round of ads to spawn more Colossus. Once you grab the buff, look to the planets in the middle of the arena. They will show 3 planets being of either light or dark right above 3 plates in the middle of the room on the floor. You want to match the light and dark planets with a planet you have aligned on the left and right. This sounds convoluted, but it's really not. For example, we have 2 dark planets, one on right and one in the middle, and 1 light planet that's on the left. That would mean we need to swap 2 planets from the right side into the middle and right, and do the same for the light planet. You do this the same way you did to align them. Grab the buff from the Colossus, activate the orbs, and activate it on the plate that you want to swap it to. If done correctly, you will have damage begin. The 3 plates will be the same energy type as the planets above them, and the boss will have an energy shield corresponding to a plate. Step into the correct plate, deal damage, and once that plate is consumed, he will swap his energy type to the opposite. So if he's starting on light energy, he will swap to dark energy once the plate is consumed. Do 3 plates of damage and reset. Do it all over again. As for loadouts, I would recommend having one person on Galahorn and have everyone else run Izanagi Rocket combo, as my team nearly 2-phased him on day 1 with the combo. Having Starfire Warlocks for backup damage with fusion nades is also very good. I would also recommend having a Tether Hunter, as the debuff applied is basically essential to dealing as much damage as possible. That 30% is nothing to scoff at. A requirement if you're planning on doing this boss in contest is running the Aeon series of exotics to generate heavy ammo. These will generate heavy off of you finishing the Colossus that spawn. This boss will basically eat all of your ammo, so have a stockpile between DPS phases to keep getting ammo for those DPS phases. So during the planetary alignment phase, use Aeons to generate ammo and then swap to your damage/ability exotic for DPS. Once all is said and done, this encounter will begin to feel pretty easy after a couple of runs. Like I said, it's not very complicated, it's just the way it's presented is weird. And once you kill him, you can head on to the final encounter. And the final encounter, and who would have guessed it, is Nezarec. Nezarec is without a doubt one of the most confusing bosses that I have ever fought, and I will tell you right now, literally no one, and I mean no one, fully understands this encounter. People are currently testing how the boss functions, but at the time of making this video, we do not fully understand Nezarec as far as his wipe mechanic is concerned. However, with some fast plays and cheese, you can pretty much brute force your way through this entire boss. First off, the Seeds of Light and Dark appear in this encounter again. I told you they'd be in the entire raid, and they function exactly the same as the other encounters. Light will be on the left side and Dark will be on the right. The goal is to link both sides to the end of the arena to begin damage, and the main mechanic that will be stopping you is Nezarec himself. He will do many special attacks that hit pretty hard in combination with all the ads that he spawns. He wanders around, he suppresses, he's an absolute menace. To prevent this, just like any other tormentor, he will have weak spots open on his shoulders and his stomach. As we do not know the specifics of the crit spots and how they work in tandem with the seeds at the time of making this video, I recommend just breaking the crit spots as soon as they become available. This will basically cripple any of his special attacks so you don't have to deal with them. Remember how I mentioned that we were going to be brute forcing this encounter? This is where we do it. For the encounter itself, we do not know how the crit spots function with the seeds. We just speedrun linking the seeds to the end to start DPS. This is by no means the intended route. It's definitely not, and it's not easy. Any slowdown or death will mean a wipe, as you won't have enough time to create the link. Until we know how the crits work, which I will leave in a pinned comment once it's discovered, this is the only way to start DPS. So get your best players to run Icarus Dash Warlock or an Eager Edge Sword to close the gap between plates quickly. If done correctly, you will reach DPS, and I recommend standing where we do in the clip, as Nezarec cannot attack you directly and will only do damage through weak ranged attacks. Now on to the cheese part. For some reason, Thunderlord of all things absolutely shreds this boss to hell. I could go into the specifics of why that's possible, but for now, just know that is by far the easiest DPS method for Nezarec. In contest mode, this boss is nearly 2-phased with a Thunderlord, a Divinity, and Wells. That is how good it is. So if by some feat of skill that you could brute force your way to DPS consistently, this boss is free. My team ran 1 Titan, T-Crash, 1 Hunter, Divinity, and Gathering Storm, and 4 Warlocks that were running Starfire and Well of Radiance. You can do something similar or completely different depending on your team comp, but as long as you can get to DPS, it doesn't even matter because Thunderlord will just carry. Colossus will also be spawning in this encounter as well, so if you need Aeons, use them. If you don't, you don't. It's Thunderlord, so the ammo economy is pretty forgiving. And with that, you have cleared the Root of Nightmares raid. If this video helped you at all, make sure to like the video and maybe even subscribe. Took me a long night to get this video out, so I'd appreciate it a lot. Anyways though, that'll be all from me. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, subscribe, go watch my other stuff, and goodbye.